Hi everyone, welcome back to the Aquarium Gardens showroom and welcome back to day 2 of our aquascaping workshop weekend. What an amazing day we had yesterday with Masashi Ono-san, and he created a beautiful Iwagumi. It was a stone placement masterclass, so big thanks to Masashi. We all really enjoyed the day, and today we are graced with another aquascaping master in his field, Mr. Steven Chong, and he is here to do a completely other end of the spectrum kind of Iwagumi, Diorama style. He's a more progressive, modern style aquascaper, high-ranking ILPLC. I'm absolutely delighted to have him here as well. Shortly I'll be handing over to Steven, but all I want to say for now is thank you very much for watching and take care.
All right, hi everyone, Steven Chong. Welcome to the second day of our Aqua Garden session. Thank you so much again for having us, Dave. It's incredible, been awesome 2 days. And though it'll come up a few times in the presentation, we have a lot of equipment and products here from Life Aqua. Andy, thanks for helping us with everything. We have the president of Life Aqua here. So as been discussed, yesterday, we did a traditional Iwagumi with Ono-san and Ryan helping out, the 3 of us putting it together. But that makes my job a lot easier because now I have this foundation upon all of you to go and understand the basic concepts that inform kind of the evolution of Nature Aquarium. So if this is YouTube guys, you got to go and watch the first video, then come back and watch the second one because I'm going over it again. So with that, let's get on to do I just click enter? All right, good. So it might be hard to see, hopefully you can read it, but background, I have been in the hobby more or less since about 2004. Around 2004, I was looking for some Corridorus cats. I really want to keep fish again like I did as a kid. But then I went to this one pet store in Kahala Mall and it was just unbelievable. I saw this one aquarium display tank at my local fish store, had Riccia carpet all over the ground and Rotala everywhere. It's bubbling, the bubbling and the pearling was just so incredible. And moreover, what really got me was looking at the fish in there. There are 5 different types of Corridorus. There are guppies and swordtails and whiptail cat. All of them were fascinating to me and all of them looked so alive. That's what I really took away from it. The fish just looked incredible and incredibly happy in there. And actually, you can still see that tank, AGA 2003, if you look for Roger Go. There's even a comment from Amano-san saying, "This is terrible." But that really inspired me to get into it. So about that era, 2004, I got into the hobby. I actually joined Practical Fish Keeping, and that's where I met George Farmer, Felipe Oliveira, Aquatic Plant Central came on the scene. I joined Plantatag.net, and that's where I met folks like Dave Chow. And that was kind of the hobby, online, in forums. And I actually entered my first tank in IAPLC in 2007. Just guts, just, passion. And I built a layout and took 71 in the world on my first try. I quickly realized after that was a fluke. I just got my butt kicked again and again and again, repeatedly after that. It took another 11 years before I would reach the winning ranks in IPLC again, and a whole lot of hard lessons with the Tokyo Aquascaping Union. So 2010, I actually moved to Niigata. So I lived in the same prefecture as Amano-san for 2 years as an English teacher in the JET program. That's not really important to aquascaping, but I just want to tell the story of passion because essentially I learned Japanese. Well, let me back up. I'm actually half Chinese and half Japanese, but I didn't grow up with either language. I'm 4th generation on both sides. So I had a natural interest in my culture and heritage, but it was really reading Amano-san's books that pushed me to the point of, I gotta speak to this guy. I gotta meet him and talk to him and pick his brain. He's just such an incredible artist of our era. And so I started learning Japanese. And then I went and lived in Niigata for 2 years. I don't think that there's another hobbyist in the entire world that can say that. So, but it really is a project of passion. It is passion and interest that moves this whole hobby, keeps everything going. So that's what's going to be emphasized again and again. So in 2016, I finally got a job. I finally like settled down long enough to like really work on aquariums as a long-term project. And when I was looking for a community and a passion, and I was in Japan. I was actually living in Tokyo. So I thought I should look for a local group. I went back to my forum contacts and they introduced me to Masashi Ono. Man, they really threw me off in the deep end, But like Tokyo Aquascaping Union was in its heyday. If you notice, like I joined TAU in 2016. This is the year of Fukada's second grand prize. So I was actually there at the Nature Aquarium party, like helping him hold up his certificate with the, the 1 million yen Japanese prize certificate. Like Ono-san was on the stage too, but I think Watanabe-san was holding the other side. But like, so that means that I met Fukada during the process of him making his grand prize 2015 layout. And TAU was well on their way to being, a world-class aquascaping team. But the hard part of my journey was deciding that I was serious enough and passionate enough to join them. Because like, I went in Fukada-san's room. He had 2 contest tanks. He had a 120 that was perfectly kept, but it was just a planted tank. There was a 90, a 75, an entire wall of 5-gallon breeders. And I'm like, what? How did you do all this? He's like, 7 to 8 hours. I'm like, wait, what? Like a week? No, a day. And I was like, what? So more than any lesson or teaching that Fukada-san gave me, honestly, it's passion, right? And the thing I learned the most from Fukada-san was just how big the gap was between his passion and mine. And then finally, seeing that difference was like seeing the contour of the mountain, seeing the path up the mountain for the first time. And then the question is just, well, are you ready to scale or not? So, sorry, no. So if we move on, these are my past layouts. And I want to say that I've been on kind of a journey with Nature Aquarium. And I think that's appropriate because like I really see aquascaping as a call to adventure, a mission of passion. And everything comes back to studying from nature and learning from nature. And so these layouts, I think, are also a representation of my grappling with that and trying to learn from each one and do something different. Fukada-san, in his own works, he talks a lot about flipping between stone and wood, very intentionally going between the two of them in order to keep himself flexible. He said, I never wanted to be locked into like how many aquascapers are. Even like Josh and Shaq, right? World class, but they only use wood. Fukada-san didn't want to get locked in. He wanted to maintain his flexibility, his comfort with materials. So purposefully, stone, wood. But what I did is instead I went diorama. I went terrestrial, aquatic, in order to keep myself comfortable with both types of themes. So first layout, butterfly hideaway. This is world rank 5. What's not shown here, just because I didn't have space, was my previous world rank 525 aquascape. But TAU has kind of a history of making these huge jumps. Like 525 to 5 is not even the biggest. There's another guy in our club called Shintaro Matsui, who's a lot more interested in baseball now. But he must have the world record because he went from 1,525 to rank 5. But anyway, there's no difference between 525 and 1,520. It's the same. Okay. But anyway, that's a Seno. And actually, that was an aquatic layout though. I wanted to make like Cano Cristalis, like this riviera in Colombia. But that was the first one, so aquatic. Then Cenote, which is a Mexican terrestrial theme. Then this layout, Amano Gawa. Like Amano Gawa means galaxy or Milky Way galaxy in Japanese. But if you change the kanji a little bit, which is what I did, you can read it as Amano's River instead. And all the plants in there are Japanese native species. But the point of this is to tell the story of flow in a river. And there are actually hidden pumps in there. Like the filter and hidden pumps are in there, blowing the plants over so that they go sideways the way they do in an actual river. But then My highest ranking today is Undying, World Rank 2 in 2020 with mirrors, kind of a swamp theme. And then Silent Pool, again, underwater. I wanted to make an alpine pond. One day, one of you Europeans has got to make a better version of this because this is a European theme originally. And then Looking Glass to the Maples. This is actually taking a lot of ideas from what Ono-san showed yesterday of like the temples in Kyoto and the gardens, stone gardens and so forth. Like, I actually wanted to put those elements together, really get the texture of maples through red myriophyllum, which I thought was like the only plant that could dance the way that maple tree leaves do. And like, we're not gonna do a lesson on that, but if you go and check out my YouTube channel, there's like videos on like my thoughts in putting together the idea of like red framed by a room, like the way a temple is, or mizukagami, which is like the reflection of trees on water as like glass. And so like those ideas come together in that layout. And then this next one is an aquatic one that I made more for fun, but it's like, it's nature aquarium, it's like rippling, it's motion. This is Dancing Spring. And so like what I want to show here is like the diversity of ideas, like that I've gone on a journey with my scapes. One, next, always looking for another answer, always looking for a new inspiration from nature. And that's kind of like the romance that I want other people to take away from Nature Aquarium. That it's not just, you know, it's not just form, it's not just recreation, but it's like really grappling with what nature has to share with you and finding it for yourself in your own heart. So, moving on. I want to today like describe these ideas through a very fun experiment. The idea of talking about aquascaping through the lens of lineages. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we have an aquascape by Takayuki Fukada, Grand Prize, Mighty Cave, 2016. But on the right side is also a layout that I have deep respect for. This layout is called Rest of the Dream by Junichi Itakura, who is like a very devout member of the ASN group in Japan. This is like the traditionalist, believers in Amano-san. But both of these scapes, you can see World Rank 1 and World Rank 3. These are the top class layouts in 2016. 2016, I still feel is the best top 7 ever because like every single every single amazing style in aquascaping is represented in that top 7. Just look through them if you have the chance. But getting into this, probably a lot of people recognize this dynamic of Diorama versus Nature Aquarium. And we had lots of drama online about this. Lots of arguments about who's really the inheritor of Amano's lineage. And like, it's not Nature Aquarium at all. With the Diorama style, right? Lots of drama. Until Josh Sim went on Green Aqua and introduced a new lens. He labeled the right side as Zen style, and he labeled the left side as wild. Essentially, Josh took different words, and instead of describing form, he described aesthetic axiom. Like, what is the North Star of beauty that guides the philosophy behind this? Zen meaning simplification and beauty of presenting through simplification. And we generally tend to see works like Iwagumi, the ultimate form of Zen simplification, right? Whereas wild style is drama, narrative, story. Like Mighty Cave takes you on a journey. It's one picture, but from the onset of seeing those huge giant cave focal points through tracing that faint and delicate sand path through the middle and like seeing the swarm of ghost cats, it's telling you a story with each layer. It's layering on visual elements front to back that take you on a journey. So wild, drama, story. But the secret, I'll tell you, is that you can't make a great wildscape if you don't have Zen in your mind. If you aren't eliminating that which is unnecessary and getting to mental clarity, you cannot make a Mighty Cave. Okay, but essentially after Josh went on Green Aqua, presented this lens of aesthetic axiom, everybody realized, oh wow, we have a lot more in common than we thought, and we can all get along. We can all be friends. Now I'm going to stir the pot. So the lens that I'm going to describe today is very political. And I've especially picked terms to frame it that way. So on the right side, I have conservative. And on the left side, I have progressive. I am specifically picking political terms to make this a fight. Like, this is a difference of ideology and the soul of Nature Aquarium. But what is it about? Like, the proposition is that we can treat both of these as ideological lineages born from the common ancestor of Takashi Amano and build out a mimetic phylogeny of politics and philosophy style. So I'm not going to give a big lecture on what mimetics are, but essentially, this is actually an idea that's born in Britain, or it's a Brit who came up with it. But the idea is you can take the thinking and the ideas that we have from phylogeny and taxonomy, studying the lineage of living things, and apply it to ideas, to culture. How essentially memes change and evolve through the creation and use of people, and how like people share and teach and learn. And some ideas get lost, some ideas get blown out, but they transform and change over time. So when I say conservative lineage versus progressive lineage, I mean that, oh wait, sorry, how do I go back? How do I zoom back out? Oh wait, no, whoops. Okay. We'll cut that part out of the YouTube video. All right, but conservative, I'm defining as they have inherited Amano Takashi's form and demonstrate an ideological commitment to preserving it. So not just that they use Amano-san's technique, but they believe that this is the thing that must be preserved. This is the axiom. Versus progressive is they have inherited Amano Takashi's revolution and are ideologically committed to innovation in service of nature storytelling. In other words, if the form fits, I'll use it, but nature is my king. And just as Nature Aquarium appeared on the scene, and honestly, I'm sorry to my Dutch friends, but essentially destroyed the world where Dutch flower garden was the standard aquascaping style. Nature Aquarium came and transformed everything, destroyed what came before it, took its place. It won the mimetic war. Like, Nature Aquarium became the style of planted aquarium design. Progressive aquascapers are the ones who have inherited that revolution. Things must change. They must transform. Nature is our king, and we will follow nature wherever it takes us. So, the moral axiom here is preservation of tradition. We revere Amano, and that's why we'll preserve his style. And on the left side, it's moral axiom of storytelling over form fidelity. Rather than being loyal to Amano-san's form, progressives are loyal to the tradition of destruction. We are loyal to looking for stories in nature and making that the North Star. And whatever form that we learn from nature because of that, that's what's king, even if it takes it away from what Amano-san had done before. I'll say that like Itakura-san's title, The Rest of the Dream, actually bothers me because I don't think that the dream ends with the creation of, Aquafloresta in Lisbon. I don't think that that is the end. I don't think Amano-san would want that to be the end. Even if like this recreation inside a 180 centimeter tank of that style is extremely moving. And anyone who loves Amano should have their heart moved by it. If you talk to the ASN guys, they say that they are shinsha. They are Amano-san's believers. They are Amano-san's devout believers. But if you are a devout believer, then you don't try to move away from what the master did. You recreate what the master did. But progressives are not believers. Progressives hear the gospel and want to continue the revolution. So, but that doesn't mean that we abandon Nature Aquarium form. I'm going to show some examples of styles that have evolved and emerged. And many of you are probably aware of them already, but I'm just using my own terms to give you, I'm giving you guys my lens for how I understand and perceive these scapes. Like both Josh Sim's work and Masashi Ono's work, people will say have a lot of the, they rhyme with Nature Aquarium. You hear the voice of Amano-san's form, but they're not necessarily loyal to it completely. I call these things, in Josh's case, and I haven't even talked to Josh about this. So Josh, if you're listening, we can discuss this later. This is my label, okay? But I call his stuff Progressive Nature Aquarium. And Progressive Nature Aquariums are layouts that use traditional forms, but not as virtue. They are fit to story tool. In other words, Josh and Shaq and others, I see they use the Amano-san traditional form, but not for its sake. Not because they're filial to it, but just because this happens to be the best style to tell the story that they want to tell. And they have the flexibility and skills to bring in new innovation. Essentially, they have brought in a lot of the ideas of modern diorama and Fukadaism and repurposed them for marriage with the traditional forms. So that's what I'm calling Progressive Nature Aquarium. And then the next category, Biotope Nature Aquariums, are layouts that use intensive biotope study as a grounding for storytelling. And almost always, I'm going to say these are progressive layouts because telling the story learned from the biotope is the king. There's no filiality to Amano's form. It's not recreating Amano's form because we want to or have to. It's because I studied the biotope, as did Amano, and we came to the same conclusion that this is the best shape for telling the story that I want to tell. Which is why I'm saying that Biotope Nature Aquarium, almost always progressive at its heart, almost always interested in introspection and experimentation, and change if it's necessary. Yesterday, you guys saw Ono-san use leaves in the bottom of his Amazonia tank. That is one of my favorite layouts, like the roots hanging down from driftwood in a traditional type of classical style, right? And then Echinodorus leaves coming up and over to form like the background. And you're like being sucked into the world of the angelfish. You're living with them, you're breathing with them, and there's leaf all over the bottom, right? Very biotope style, but what did Ono-san say that Amano said? Amano hated it, right? Amano said, no, you can't put, but actually Amano-san didn't even hate the leaves. He said, those leaves are too big. You should have picked smaller leaves. So, and then look, Ono-san has smaller leaves than this one, right? So the idea here is that you're not filial to Amano. You're continuing his lineage of learning from nature. And if the form fits, it does. But you're not loyal to it. It's just a tool, just as all tools are. And I actually here have a taxonomy map. Here, I'll like go around here. But like you see here, aquascaping taxonomy. And this is like not the only one. And this is not holistic. There's so, like I don't have Brazilian on here. I don't have Indonesian, forest layouts. I don't have Chinese aquascapes. And by the way, I do have an idea though where I would place each of them on this. But for a simplification of like very important relevant styles, here at the very top, I have aquarium art plus nature aesthetic as a category, okay? As a category that evolves from the bigger idea of fish keeping as a hobby, okay? But within that broader fish keeping, we have aquarium art plus nature aesthetic. And there's actually two branches already here. I have on this side, Nature Aquarium. The founding figure is Takashi Amano. But I have on this side, Biotope Aquariums with the founding figure being Hiko Blehar. And I even have annotation here that the friendship between these two men kind of established them as sister lineages that share a lot in common. Then from Nature Aquarium, I have another branch over here, Progressive Aquascaping, which we've been talking about, and here, Conservative Aquascaping. And on the conservative side of the family tree, we have Amano-san's believers. This is Junichi Takura or Tsukiji-san. This is those who, shinsha, we believe in the Amano path. And it's great. We need people to preserve the tradition, right? So we need these conservatives in the overall hobby. They play an important role. But over here, I have Amano's apprentices, like Honma Yusuke or Hironori Handa, who studied directly under him, who basically grow up as aquascapers because they were trained by him. All the Suike guys you could say are here. But the thing is, believers and apprentices are different in almost every school, almost every art form, because believers follow the path. Like apprentices tend to, they've learned the lessons, but they find their own path. They continue to discover, they continue to learn. I think that the Suike guys and Honda-san continue to introspect, continue to invent themselves and evolve. So in other words, they're moderates, you could say. But on the progressive side, I have another split here between Biotope Nature Aquarium and Fukadaism. And so this Biotope Nature Aquarium, I'd say, is like the place that I most fit NAL, which is the Nature Aquarium Lovers group that, Ryan and Ono-san have shirts on for today. Ono-san, look, so both of the, in other words, if Ono-san is probably here, and both of these are schools that come from Ono-san. And I haven't, so Biotope NA, prominent figure is Masashi Ono, but then there's heavy cross-gene transfer between Biotope Aquariums and Biotope NA. The difference is that Biotope Aquarium is ideologically committed to recreating nature as is. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is recreation and the appreciation of nature as it is, perfectly replicated. Biotope NA says, no, my goal is still Nature Aquarium's goal. Nature Aquarium's goal is to learn from nature, take inspiration, find the story, center the art, and then take the lessons of that and apply it to the art. And Biotope NA is just very this focused, this type of study focused, but with the same purpose of, we got to get to the art. I don't need the exact same wood that is in that river in Australia. I just have to get the gist of it, essentially. And then a sister to Biotope NA, I have Fukadaism, prominent figure, Takayuki Fukada. Here we're talking about, huge shadows on both sides. We have the focus on the viewpoint as the singular most important thing. And the idea of taking the viewer through layers of design in order to tell a nature story. That's Fukadaism. And actually, under that, I would say that I have another branch between progressive NA. So this is where Josh Sim and Shaq Wiel reside, because really their style is a child of Fukadaism. They've taken Fukadaism and moved it back a little bit towards the traditional form. And on this side, I have me, Steven Chong, Cloud Style, a brand new style that I'll be presenting and talking about today. But that means that Cloud Style is a type of Fukadaism. So it is in the lineage of Takayuki Fukada, which is, and Fukadaism is a type of progressive aquascaping, meaning that Fukadaism is a child of Ono-san, Onoism, which means that it is in part of the lineage of Amano Takashi and Amanoism, if you were to say. So actually, within TAU, within many schools in Japanese arts, we have the idea of generations. Like Shodaime means the first generation. Here's our Shodaime, first generation of TAU. But he went on and made another school called NAL. But first generation of TAU, Shodaime, is Ono-san. And then second generation, Nidaime, is Fukada-san. And I am Sandaime, third generation. So let's move on to the next slide. Oh wait, what am I doing? I'm the one clicking the thing. Okay, I forgot because I was over there. Okay, so question. Why am I a progressive? Because in that initial question of, I showed progressive and conservative, and I showed the axiom, the idea of a moral, ground upon which everything has to be built. And actually, moral axioms are the way we think about ethics as well. I just hijacked the idea for art. But why am I progressive? Because there's not an inherent reason that you have to be a progressive versus a conservative. Why not? Just like in ethics, people define different axioms, though they shouldn't. In art, like we could define different axioms. My axiom is nature as king. But why? Answer is because I made a promise to Amano-san and myself when I met him directly. And I'm going to tell you guys a story of when I went to my first nature aquarium party ever. This is after the reception has happened. This is after all the glitz and the glamour and the awards handed out. Amano-san brought all the foreign guests to the gallery and brought them to the second floor of ADA headquarters. We're all in this, this beautiful room around a table, right? And what does Amano-san say to us? He said, this is 2009, so this is before the diorama style was invented. All of the aquariums are traditional style nature aquariums. Amano said, what was this contest? 9 years ago, I made this contest for the world. I asked the world to bring me their stories from nature. Is this all you guys got? Is this all that the world has to show me? There was nothing here. Nothing at all. Not a single one from what he actually said in real life. Not from 1,000 to rank 1. There was not a single layout here that I haven't already done myself better. Bring me something new. That was Amano-san's clear message to all the foreign guests here. But none of them spoke Japanese, so maybe I was the only one who understood what he was saying. The translators tried. They were like, Amano-san says, maybe we can try be more creative and new thing in the next year. And I was like, meanwhile, I was like there shell shocked. I was like, holy shit, he's mad at us. Oh boy. But at that moment I knew, like, whenever I did become serious, I couldn't just do the same. I needed to look for something new. And I believe that the layout that answered Amano Takashi's request for something new was this one, Longing by Takayuki Fukada, Grand Prize 2015. This was the first Japanese Grand Prize in a decade. 10 years, no Japanese GP, even if Japanese people were in the top 7 or 27. In fact, the TAU team as a group was born because its founder, Noriyuki Shito, the guy who was standing behind me in the very first image of my basic training, he was annoyed that Japan had become so weak. So he wanted to make a competitive team that would take the throne back for Japan. And Fukada-san is the one who eventually sat in it. But this is special not just because Fukada-san took GP. The important thing about this layout for our story is that this is the last GP that Amano-san ranked himself. In fact, Amano-san was nearing the end of his life during the judging of IAPLC 2015. And this is the last greatest of show work. For those who are familiar with the history of Nature Aquarium, you know that when Amano was alive, he always picked his number 1. And that Aquascape was given the greatest of show award. Not just its rank, but that special award because Amano-san picked it as his personal number 1. In fact, TAU has 2 of these. This one is one of Amano-san's greatest of show. But also, there's a mountain diorama by Toshifumi Watanabe that also won greatest of show from Amano Takashi. Watanabe-san is a brilliant aquascaper who has an incredible analytical mind. He's a software engineer, he's a designer, but Watanabe-san has a very hard time thinking about intuitive. Like, to do that type of Iwagumi or to do nature aquarium just by feeling would be very uncomfortable by him. It's all logic, analysis, and he's so good at the analytical mind that even Fukada-san is scared to show Watanabe-san his work because there's no harsher critic. But to reach this level, you need both analysis and intuition. And in this Longing layout, the last GP judged by Amano Takashi, the first Japanese GP in 10 years, after 2014, Amano-san actually directly told Fukada-san, "Kimi, これで満足してないだろうな." It's like, you're not satisfied with this, right, Mr. Fukada? I know that you can do more. I'm expecting more from you, is what he said to Fukada after Fukada took World Rank 2 and then World Rank 15 in the previous year before reaching this level. And so I believe that at the end of Amano-san's life, not only was it was the best send-off that we could give to Amano Takashi after creating Aqua Floresta in Lisbon, but also because this layout was a part of the send-off. The first Japanese GP in 10 years, the last Japanese GP to be picked by Amano, and the last Greatest of Show award to be given by Amano after he had personally pushed Fukada to reach it. So this is why I'm a progressive. Anyway, we're going back to me, but what is Cloud Style? So after many years of my own journeying, experimenting with a wide range of styles. You saw I went Biotope, and I went Alpine Pond, and I went Japanese River, and I went cenote in Mexico. But after many years of journeying and experimenting with a wide range of layouts, I decided to invent and commit to my own one. Because what I noticed is I did all these crazy things, but no one ever copied me, which means I can tell you guys what I'm gonna do, and none of you will copy me. So I can do whatever I want. There's like no one who's going to take my stuff. Fine, I'll tell you then. What I'm going to do year after year is this style, which is, aside from my aquascaping lineage, I have a painter's lineage as well. From my childhood, this is a work by my painting master, Hiroshi Tagami, who in my opinion was the greatest artist to ever come out of Hawaii. So Tagami-san's works, which whenever I saw them as a kid in a hotel or in a school, where I would run up to them and look at them and spend hours looking at them. So Tagami-san is my inspiration at my core. He's a man who, like Amano-san, traveled to Africa, traveled to South America, was super interested in plants, brought them back, grew a Japanese garden in Hawaii, and like also shared plants that he discovered for use with the Hawaii government. If you go to Waikiki now and see like blue African cichlids in the ponds, almost all of those cichlids are somehow lineage connected to fish that Hiroshi Tagami once took care of in his ponds. But this man was my inspiration, and his form is really about mountains, Mauka, and Makai, which means ocean in Hawaiian, and also sky. Like, this was the thing that I was always hunting for, but couldn't figure out for years. Like, how can I talk about sky in the aquascape? Yeah, when I told Tagami-san that I was going to become an aquarium designer, he had all sorts of thoughts about that. But it is what it is. Anyway, so Cloud Style is a combination of the weight of Fukada stone. So the power and strength of Fukada is stone, with the sky and clouds and atmosphere of Tagami paintings. And the only real way I have to do that is to talk about actual layouts. So this is my 2013 layout, Echoes of the Pali. And this was my first time trying a Hawaii themed layout. Honestly, I had been running away from this theme all my life in aquascaping because I had no idea how to do it. And I wanted to do honor and service by it. But without like finding the language, the syntax to actually replicate in nature, finally at some point I realized that I'll just do it. And if you check out Master Skills Series episode 1 on Steve Scapes, the YouTube channel, you'll see like the techniques I invented to make these mountain ridges work in real life. But even at this point, like I wanted mountain and I was already inspired by Fukada, by Tagami, but I didn't have a way to get the clouds. And actually at the time, Ono-san even suggested when I was talking about clouds that I use Risia. And I was like, Risia? I have no idea. What? How does that work? So you see instead, I picked this fish. これ名前なんだったっけ、Ono-san? Armstrongy, right. Hemigramma's Armstrongy. So it's like the gold tetra, but without the bacteria shine. But it gives you like this like glistening feel, kind of like mist. And so I use the fish for my cloud expression instead. But now I'm going to share you guys my 2025 IUPLC tank, where I really brought this together, I think. And like this is the part we're going to have to cut from YouTube, unless we publish after IUPLC 2025. No, Dave, how do you want to handle that? Are you going to publish after, before? Okay, we'll cut this part then. Sorry, my throat's getting tired. It's Ono-san's fault because I was helping with him. He's with his presentation too. But I brought cough drops. We're all good. So this is my 2025 layout. Purling clouds. Again, it might be hard to see the highlighted areas, but anyone who wants to see the actual picture, go ahead and come up to me afterwards. But what I did was I made the sunrise over what we call an unkai in Japanese. In Japanese, unkai literally means cloud sea. And the same idea exists in like Chinese painting, but in nature, in unkai is basically like the cloud layer as seen above from the mountains, and it moves and forms almost like it's an ocean. Therefore, literally cloud sea. But I didn't want to take that title for English. In fact, this is the first layout where I had the Japanese title from the very beginning, and it took me forever to get an English title. So the English title for the layout is Purling Clouds. Like the purling of Risia forming clouds. And this is how like the energy of clouds from like Tagami style paintings and the weight and power of stone from Fukadaism come together in what I'm going to call cloud style. And like it pains my heart no matter what, that in the next years in IPOC, I know that I'm not going to make other styles that I love, like Josh's Progressive NA, which I've tried, like Biotope NA, which I've tried. But I know that there are others, like Josh's students, and like Ono-san's students, who are going to continue to make awesome layouts in those lineages. So I'm happy and confident finding my own way, which is this cloud style of Risia and stone. And the more I think about it, I just think more and more ideas for how to use these two elements together to tell stories about the sky. They just keep pouring into my mind. It was like suddenly tapping to a floodgate. But my message to you guys is not to do this. In fact, if I had my own student, I would ban them from using cloud style at the beginning. I want them to go on a journey. I want you guys to go on a journey. I want everyone in the hobby to experience the romance of nature aquarium. And so as a progressive, my job is not to translate form to all of you, but to tell my story so that you guys can learn to search for your own stories. So this is the hardscape though. I just wanted to show that. We're going to be making not quite this, but you know, talking to some of the ideas in this aquarium later on as we get to it. And if anyone wants to ask me about the hows, maybe I'll answer. But actually, Fukada-san explicitly told me no how questions. Like first two layouts, he worked very closely with me, gave me advice, but really didn't teach me like techniques about how to do things. Really only when we were together in his fish room did he ever open up some of his actual techniques. Like, oh, this, yeah, I did it this way. Oh, but afterwards, it's like, no more how questions because I want you to figure it out yourself. If you don't figure it out, if you don't have that mind, then you'll only make the layouts that I have made before. And Fukada-san would definitely not have taught me to like look for essentially, you know, those clear binders that are used. Like I got the Best Employee of the Year award. I got to put that in this clear case and put it on my desk. No, I'm going to just buy that clear case off of Amazon, stick it upside down into the gravel, glue it in, and then put some mountains on it to get like floating mountains. What you saw in the final scape is not because I wanted floating mountains. It's just because I was too lazy to build the rest of the mountain all the way to the bottom. So eventually, like, I'm thinking the next thing that I really want to do is, I'm actually writing a book right now that's going to consolidate all these ideas and stories into a journey that I can take all the readers on. Because I really want you guys to get to know what I experienced and to experience Ono-san and Fukada-san and Amano, not as like legendary figures who existed in a mysterious land that we can never know, but as people. What were they like in a human story? And also, like if I have students someday, and I'm gonna guess that very few people would want to be my student, or if they do, they have to be real crazies because the road is hard. But if I had such a student, what I have to give them is not cloud style. It's not form. As a progressive aquascaper, what I have to give them are tools, skills, the teachings and mannerisms and common sense that we had in TAU that fostered creativity. You know, the ability to say to a student, don't ask me the how. You have to figure out the how on your own. And that I'm going to call dream path or yumedo. Like Amano-san said, we have a dream. I want the dream to continue. I want aquascapers all over the world to keep searching because in my view, nature is the king. No theme is off limits. No technique is off limits. And you have to go out and discover it on your own. Okay? So that's the presentation. So I have an idea in my mind. We'll see how things go. It's probably going to be a little bit different than I imagined. So yesterday, Ono-san mentioned that you go fast, right, with Iwagumi. You can't do that for Diorama. There's just too much going on. There's just too much structure. There's too much thinking to be done. So you cannot do it fast. But the important part about doing it fast is actually not to do it fast. The speed is not the important thing. The reason for the speed is to use intuition, to let intuition do the talking for the layout. But for a diorama where there's so many more parts and so much more complexity and structure, the way that you get that same intuitive-led design is to do the intuition step beforehand. So when I aquascape, I draw first. I make a drawing and then I scape. And the drawing part is where I go quick, 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 quick. Don't let yourself think too hard. Let intuition come first. But then once I've solidified that drawing and I've done the same thing as Ono-san said, intuit, then take a step back. Analyze, then take a step back. Maybe intuit again if it needs correction, right? You're doing that Iwagumi intuition analysis switching, but instead of doing it at the hardscaping stage, you do it at the drawing stage, and then trust the drawing when you get to the building stage. So that's why, Ono-san, I have to look at the camera more. I have to look at my phone more when doing this because the intuition we did yesterday, I'm not going to redo that today. Having this mat, as we discussed yesterday, is important because it protects the bottom of the aquarium. But I'm going to need height and adjustment ability from the very beginning. And so this gravel layer will help with that. Maybe one more. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. That's perfect. So you see the mat has been cut here and left open. It's so we can keep we can put sand in here and you won't see the mat at the end. But no, I think I got to start with the very front of the scape first. So you guys can tell why I'm using this, right? To hold the hardscape in place, but it also allows me to do it in a way where I won't scratch the glass. Like, Fukada-san's original technique was to use brick to hold hardscape in place while doing this, but I invented using the technique of styrofoam instead because I wasn't gonna carry a suitcase of bricks with me to CIPS in Shanghai. And like in practice, bricks can scratch glass, so this turned out to be a better solution overall. So, because you could do stuff like this. This will all float up at the end. And I remember in the original, like this was basically touching the glass. So we're getting super close up to the edge. Super close to the edge. And Aqua Gardens team, if you have trouble doing maintenance, you want to buy, like these are sand levelers invented with my preferred shape. Lets you draw and sweep the sand like a paintbrush in a much better way than the original sand levelers. But you still want to buy the construction worksite plastic knives, because you can't scrape the glass with this. But if you have the knives too, like get the plastic knife, and you can maintain by cleaning it this way instead of using the razor scraper. So let's see here. And you see I'm using the lava and using the styrofoam to hold things in place. This is the next rock, and it looks like. Like that. Okay, so now I am, looking and checking. Now, earlier I told you guys that I am a progressive aquascaper, but there's actually a practical reason why I tell people that they should start with Diorama first instead of the traditional nature aquarium. It's because this, you either get it right or you don't. To do this type of instinct-driven nature aquarium, you need lots of years of experience not to fuck it up. Like, you need the intuition developed over years of experience. Ono-san made it look so easy yesterday, right? Hironori Honda, the 2018 GP who trained directly under Amano, if you watch him scape too, he makes it look easy. Amano always made it look easy. But you're literally comparing yourself to hundreds of scapes of experience, years of experience. And to get this right, you either have to have crazy natural talent, which often leaves you like winning sometimes and like ruining it other times, or you just have to wait and commit until you get good enough that you can do it intuitively. But with Diorama, when I do this, I have a drawing that I've already said I committed to, right? So one way is to actually get the drawing and superimpose it directly here. Like, I can print it onto a giant piece of paper, and then I'll put a piece of plastic on top of it and trace over the paper, so that when I take the drawing away and I leave just the clear plastic with the tracing, it is the drawing right on top of the scape. In fact, that's what I did with Unkai. Maybe I should have showed you guys this in the presentation, but let's see here. And I know you're looking at a tiny phone that I'm holding up, but this is the drawing that made that scape. And after I printed out the drawing and then traced over it, now I have a clear sheet of paper that has the exact drawing, exactly as I drew it. And that drawing contains all of the intuition and analysis that I poured into the drawing stage. So what Ono-san did here yesterday, I have to do in the drawing in order to get it right. And then once I get it right, I have to trust the drawing. I have to trust myself at the drawing stage. And I have to trust my skills in rendering to get it right. But this is what I call see, don't look. You don't build with your intuition. Every day you spend looking around at the world, but when you're peering into the aquarium and trying to match the lines to the actual physical space, you'll find it's wildly different. Like, if you thought that this stone was big enough to be a father stone, no, you need one 3 times as big. You thought that, like, this pebble was small? No, you need one 1/10 the size in order to make a distant mountain. But what Diorama style does is it disciplines you to do that. There is no intuition. There is no, well, it kind of looks good if I put these 2 pieces of wood here together. You either got it right or you didn't. And you can tell that right away by looking at it. So does this look like the photo that I had? Yes or no? And there's no escaping it. The drawing is your teacher that forces you to see the lines as they're meant to be. And building up the experience in Diorama that way will eventually, first of all, give you the rendering skills to make whatever you want. And then it'll teach you over the years to develop the intuition that you would need to make something like that. So actually, for me, this is a higher level of mastery. And you want to go through and do this, if you really want to get good at that, unless you have incredible instincts, I would recommend trying this first. Let's see. In a funny way, it's kind of like how, in fish keeping, guys, you know how a big tank, it costs more, so lots of beginners don't want to buy a big tank, right? They think, this is one more thing I want to add. So when people buy their first aquarium for fish keeping, they think, oh, a big tank is more expensive, so I don't want to invest in it. So they buy a little tank. But then what happens? The little tank is harder to maintain, right? It's harder to get the parameters right. So you end up killing a lot of fish. The smaller tank that seems beginner friendly is actually harder. Same thing with aquascaping. To do this style, you need to buy all this rock. You have to have all this material. You have to do the drawing, but it's analytical. This is logical, You can do this. Actually, Watanabe-san, who I just talked about, is great at this, even without intuition, even though that's not his strength. Just with raw analytical power, he became, he made an aquascape that was picked by Amano-san to be best in the world at 1 year, right? So if you take this path, you invest in all the rocks, you try printing out one of your favorite illustrations and tracing it onto glass, and you force yourself to match it, you'll see that you're wrong about a lot of things. But the drawing will teach you what's right and wrong. And eventually, you'll build up the skills to maybe one day aspire to make one of those Hakai Iwagumi. So, let's see. So this is like literally the Fukada method. Make, check, make, check. As you might remember him describing in the Green Aqua videos. And actually, I'm seeing that, okay, this is all correct, but all of these stones have to be over here. So they're actually right, but they're not in the right position. You see how easy the styrofoam makes it to make tiny micro adjustments, right? So I talked yesterday about getting off the substrate, right? You don't want to sit, it's good to have some place that sit flat like this. But if it's all sitting flat on the ground, very boring. So that's what we want to avoid. Actually, oh man, the face of this stone is so nice. So I want to show it off a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now why am I being so careful in doing this step and making the right adjustments? Because in a second, this is not going to be changeable. All right, good. Can I get the super glue? And the accelerator. And guys, there's no way around getting super glue on your fingers in this. It's just a fact of life. I don't know if my fingertips can even tell that they're getting burned anymore. But my tip is let it solidify, and then afterwards, you can use nail polish to get it off, or you can use one of those hand shavers for a beard. You can use it to peel off super glue from your fingertips. So I'm actually letting the glue sink in between the rocks. And this is super important to do thoroughly, because when we're done with this step, this rock has to stay in the position it's in now, even after we move the styrofoam away. sorry. But I find that the thick glue plus accelerator method that the reef guys invented tends to work better for rocks. Like I still use the toilet paper and thin glue method for a lot of wood. And then there's sometimes like there's angles where it's hard to do this with rocks. So you just gotta like play it by ear and be comfortable with multiple methods. So with this one, I'm making a spot, at least one toe, where I can glue it directly to the garden mat. But I do have to take into account the Mori-tsuchi concept that Ono-san said yesterday, because like things can move. I'm like basically packing it all in there to like get things super solidly attached. Okay. Sorry, is it? Oh, can you pass me the dragon stone? Thank you. All right. No, wait. Okay. Can you open a new bottle of super glue? Thank you. Here. Oh, no, I'm still using this one, but I won't need it soon. So like one time when Ono-san and Fukada-san and Watanabe-kun joined my training in the early days of TAU, you know, they each demonstrated for me a scape that kind of shaped my thinking on the way layouts are made. Ono-san made an aquascape in 30 seconds. We were given a 2-minute time limit, but you guys know how fast he is with this stuff, right? So he made one of these in 30 seconds. Fukada-san used the whole 2 minutes, but he spent the entire first minute just doing this. Like the foundation is what you really care about. Spend time on the base, invest in it, because this is what everything else is going to sit atop of. So we cannot rush this step. Once we're confident that the base will hold, then everything else will fall into place more naturally. And then we can have more fun, you know? So I'm trying to fit pieces of stone in so that they all touch each other. Like there's multiple surface areas touching multiple stones. And each stone being reinforced helps you so that they don't want to move. I guess the accelerator is melting the glove or something. Okay. So, once Fukada-san, once someone at an event asked Fukada-san how many places he wants to glue an individual stone in order to say it's secured, and Fukada-san, as many as possible. 7? 10? I mean, the idea is you're investing an entire year into making this under normal circumstances. So, Fukada-san would say, would you really feel good sleeping at night if you didn't do bloody everything you could in order to make sure that, you weren't scared on the back end? And people often ask me, aren't you worried about the glue making the stone turn white? If you let glue touch water before it cures, then it'll turn white. But if you make sure to cure it, and we're accelerating to cure it now, before it dries, then it will stay clear. Actually, oh wow, I realized I have a whole area down here to stabilize the stone. So what I can do is I can move the gravel out of the way. And this is why it's good to look at the scape from many angles, because you start discovering things that you wouldn't have known other ways. But okay. So I can actually have room to fit in a fairly big one in there to stabilize it. Because Moritsuchi is going to hide this spot, is what I recognize going around. I can glue this rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rock and I'm going to jam it in between here. And so I can actually get it to, I can glue this rock and this rock together. And I can glue it to the garden mat. So I have lots of anchoring spots. And then I'm gonna actually put in some gravel underneath here in order to get the stone to really make contact. So where I can glue it directly to the mat, that's what I want to do. But where I can't, where it's standing up a little bit, I'm putting in gravel so that the gravel will be glued to both the stone and the mat. So I'm triple, quadruple reinforcing this. The stone is being glued to the oyaishi, and this stone is also being glued to this support stone. The support stone is being glued to the mat itself. Do we have another bottle of accelerator? Okay. And then there's actually more in here, but as you use it, it has a harder time reaching, when it goes like this, the straw on the inside is having trouble. And then I'm gonna put in some gravel on top of that, and I put more glue in there on top of that. So if Ono-san weren't here, I would need to put a big piece of styrofoam like this in order to hold that stone in place while doing this. And this is all going to be hidden by Moritsuchi, which is why I'm not particularly concerned about piling on the stone and stuff. I'm waiting for it to drip in before I spray again. this feel? Oh, that's feeling much better. You guys feel nerves? Nah, maybe not yet. Maybe we do one more. Okay, wait. So like the reason why I'm hesitant to put a stone in here, this is like where I really want to put something in to balance it out. But the reason why I'm hesitant is because the more that I can keep back here, like the cooler it looks, right? Because like it goes, this gap will go further and further back if I don't place anything here. But I am kind of nervous and this is not my layout to maintain. So I'll put in a little bit more protection than I normally would. That's true. Okay. So what you want to do is when you move it, stick a bunch of styrofoam and stuff in so that it cannot jostle very easily. No, I need a bigger one. But again, I don't want, the bigger this is, the less interesting it'll be to see from the front at the end. But I mean, that's not too bad, I think. Probably. It's on then. I mean, it's okay. It's not bad, but I would prefer not to. It's more interesting if you can go without, but we'll play it safe a little bit. Because you see, like, as soon as I put this in, it's plugging up a gap back here where I could have invented more beach or something back here, right? But I'm thinking like probably the stones on the other side will come around to here. So that might get covered up by shadow anyway. So, but like you want to be planning ahead and leaving as much as you can possible. Because by plugging this, I'm essentially cutting off a certain decision I can make later at the end, right? You want to leave yourself as many decisions as you can to make things look cool at the end. Because like something like this, I could always feel it at the end if I felt it was better black. But if by putting it now, I no longer have the option to make it white later on, right? Okay. Don't touch it. Okay. Leave it alone. Ono-san, 話してみて. Okay. Oh, wait, I have another spot. See, like this place you can't see where I'm pointing my finger now. So, actually, can you hold it again, Ono-san? So, if you guys imagine my first 2017 Aquascape where I used lava stone to create a diorama, and I had, as I mentioned, I had really bad skills at the time. How scratched up do you think the glass was in that aquarium? Very scratched. Real, Ono-san saw it, right? どうだった? Yeah. Atrocious, right? Yeah, but here's the thing. When I was training with Shito-san, and so like Shito-san is Ono-san's good friend from old, right? And I was told him, I'm worried about scratching my glass. It's such an expensive, nice aquarium. He said, Steven, in 2 or 3 years, you should probably buy a new one anyway. Trust me, you got 120 times 45 times 45. You're definitely gonna start feeling like it's too small. And you know what? Like if you ever move or something happens in life, yeah, you're probably gonna want another one. So don't even worry about it, just go. Plus, you know the scratches on the glass, they won't even appear in the contest photo. I was like, oh, okay. And I think like a lot of my Zen friends who just are in love with their interior are probably like going nuts thinking about that. But you know what? If it hadn't been for that tank, I don't think I'd be where I am now. You know, if I had been afraid to go in with lava in that tank and like do my worst, then I don't think I would have become the aquascaper that I became. So there are many fears of common senses that you actually are locked into in your day-to-day. And that goes beyond aquascaping too, right? But noticing where your common sense is becoming an inhibitor to doing what needs to be done, it's something to be challenged. And you can always buy another aquarium. But I'll do my best here, Dave. So now I'm starting to feel better about this stone and that stone. Because they're all like glued together at this point. They have a shared destiny. The one place that like Fukada-san and I really differ in terms of like personality is he's super neat and methodical. Like when you go into his room, like there's like 500 tools that are perfectly organized alphabetically. I don't know, but it's like immaculate, right? Whereas you go into my basement, it's like a war zone. But then I say, yeah, but I have kids. You don't have kids, Fukada-san. So give me some sweat, you know? Cut me some slack. Okay. So this is definitely glued on well. I should probably put a rock back here just to glue it onto the mat itself. I'm feeling less and less confident about the gravel because like this is thick glue, and I'm realizing like now doing this that the value of medium thickness glue is that it can drip in more but still like cling on. So like there's a different value from medium. Oh, yeah, but yeah, too thin, right? So thin, super good for, like I said, wood, and for they're definitely applicable. You kind of just have to trial and error. I can't explain every scenario, but I am fortunate enough to have a glue sponsor in the US called Glue Masters. So I have like giant tubs like this of ultra thin, medium, and thick. And like I've found different applications for each of them. But I think you can let go, Ono-san. Yeah, good. All right. So like, I know I'm using a lot of glue and time on this, but again, guys, like this is the thing, the foundation is the part you want to be least scared of, right? You want to be the most confident that you did everything you could to make it as tight as you can, because there's no going back once it's done, right? Other stuff, surface level stuff, you know, you can always fix. This is bedrock here. So I mentioned Fukada-san's demonstration on Speedscape. Ono-san's demonstration was the point that 2 minutes is long. 2 minutes is nothing. You can do escape in 2 minutes. You can do escape in 30 seconds. The point of Fukada-san's demonstration was that, so 1 minute of structure build, 20 seconds of laying wood on top to tell the story of the arch and the main focal point, okay? The main thing he wants you to look at in a wood arch that was also a log, right? Telling those two stories at once. Then he spent 20 seconds. He was like, okay, so here's the base, put on the wood. Then so Steven, and he spent 20 seconds talking to me. This is what you want to build. Endure, hold on until you get to this point. Not that we have to get a lot further to get to the point he was talking about, but hold on to the very end, and only now that he picked up this little twig off the counter. Done. And like that one twig going in, it was like magic. You know, all around the world, there's aquascapers in Indonesia and Malaysia and Europe, like little twigs. Oh, I want to be like Longing. I want to be like Fukada, just one twig. That was it. And that one twig made everything feel huge. The detail is like the last thing we care about here. The base is everything. But I'm feeling confident about this. Let's go. All right. Done. Let's go home now. No, but we did the hardest part, and now this too. So this is the other great thing about styrofoam is if I did it to the brick, I'd have to figure out how to get it out without scratching the glass. And yeah, I bet no one's ever bought their own styrofoam before. You always get it in a package or whatnot. You could save those, but honestly, this stuff is so cheap if you buy it at like a hardware store or something. Like, don't even worry about it. Yeah, I'm not supposed to get overly focused on detail myself either. I just wanted to make sure that I could combine this stone to the others pretty easily. All right, so with that. It's so funny because I just took a whole bunch of it out, right? Want it in, want it out. Well, we don't know if we don't try. If we don't try, we don't know. Actually, Ono-san, I'm gonna lift the rock. Could you push more gravel behind, underneath it? Use that. Yeah, and push it under as I lift it. Okay, ready? So this is a good way to adjust. I mean, I'm getting help, but really, you can figure out how to do this on your own too. Oh, pretty good. Let's go higher. Let's go higher. Right, and if you can push down on this side too, Ono-san. So like push through here and then also push through here with the leveler. I'll lift, you do that. Okay, ready? Actually, can I get a bench? There was a workbench, right? Like to stand on? Oh yeah, cool. All right. So this is also one of the most valuable aquascaping tools. You absolutely want to have one of these. Ready? So I'm noticing that this toe is up off the ground, right? And actually that's what I want. So I'm like pushing more gravel in there. And see, like this toe is just giving a little space off the ground. Ideally at the end, I'd want to pull out gravel like this so that it's feeling even more like it's not sitting on the ground, right? And you can imagine the sand will go underneath there, but there'll still be shadow. Or, you know what, I might decide to just like bring it all the way up, but I'm leaving myself open to decisions, okay? Like, should it be sitting flat like this? Should it be up off the ground like that? I don't know. Maybe in the final, when we put the sand in, when we do Moritsuchi, then I'll have a better idea. Oh wait. This design. Woo. Oh, this is so good, Andy. This is so. I never even thought about this application until I'm actually holding it. Okay. So the story behind this is like, when I was Fukada-san uses a work shovel. I mentioned those before, but to like do maintenance in here. But it's also good for sand leveling. I told Andy that like this design would be so much better. And like in practice, it's even better than I thought it would be. And I know that there will be lots of people who are worried about, you know, getting their hardscape covered in glue. Just get more hardscape. Or buy hardscape that you can get a lot of, that will, like the amount is much more important than the actual texture or appearance of any one individual piece. But even if you are buying a nice primo piece, like investing in more hardscape is never a problem, because as Ono-san likes to say, hardscape doesn't die. It'll be with you for the rest of your life. Unless you move to New York and you have to get an entirely new supply. But at that point, you need to get good enough to get sponsors to send you hardscapes. All right. So the question for me now is, can I glue these two pieces together? Because I feel like this one needs something at its base, it's super stable because it's leaning up against the glass, and it's just resting. By the way, like in my own aquariums, I would put like plastic like tape here, but like duct tape in a display tank like this, kind of what Fukada-san would do is like fill all of this. Actually, we could do this if you want. We could fill all of that, like put in some black sponge here if we have, and then fill the back with lava stone, and that will like hold things in place while not being super obvious. You know? Do I view the hardscape through the glass? Oh, do I glue hardscape to glass? No, not directly. What I usually do is I use waterproof super glue. I use waterproof duct tape, and I glue the rocks to the duct tape. I am just gonna fill the whole back with lava stone. Then I'll fill even more. Wait, where did the lava? Oh, there it is. Okay. And the great thing about this, guys, this lava stone, is that it's black, right? So that means that on the reflection, you know what? Actually, go ahead, cut me that garden mat. We'll put it in there. I think just like from a stability standpoint, it's better to have it. So like when you're creating the viewpoint is the most important thing for a Fukadaist aquascape, like what it looks at the very end. And so like you notice that there's this really dramatic pathway through the two ridges, right? But at the end of it, you have to make something. You have to put something to make the audience feel like there's even more back there. Like there's just one more dimension or layer even further beyond. And so that's what this stone can be used for, if I can get the gravel to play nicely. Filter wool can help hold things in place and prevent like runoff. The reason why I didn't use this on the edge of the glass is because white reflects. So if I use the white filter floss here, when you fill the tank, you'll be able to see it from the front, reflected on the glass. But here it's not touching, so it'll be fine. So again, I think if aquascapers had our way, we would make all filter floss black instead of white. Okay, so I even want something in here actually on this side, but I can wait later. See how I'm feeling about other rocks before dealing with that. Okay. Oh, sorry. So things are going a little bit different because I had to fill a space down there to lock the other stones in place. So this is supposed to be the stone that goes in back there, but we can't push it through the base anymore. So I'm having to readjust. That's fine. You try hold it like that. So this is what we want to do essentially in placement, but now it's just a matter of how to put it in place. And with that in mind, I do think I need to make the layer at the very end first, even though that wasn't my intention originally, because this is kind of detail work, you know? What? So you don't want to do detail work at the beginning, but sometimes you're forced to, essentially. Now the question is it better dark or light? Right, this is dark, light. Which gives more dimension? Maybe if I make this one dark, then this one will be the last one and it'll feel even farther away in light. Or do I want it to be light so that the feeling of the father stone is even more? Because like, so if it's dark, then this whole thing feels more stable because now it feels like that is also part of the base, right? Whereas if this is light, then this father stone and this stone become clearly on different layers, and so all of this drama becomes more powerful, right? So there's a decision-making step here. I think what I'll do is I'll make that one the furthest. I'll take a halfway point so that it's like it's clearly separate from this stone, but it's dark enough that it's closer. It feels closer than the one in back. And I'm just leaving that little gap at the end. Nah, it needs to be brighter. Okay. And actually, you know what? It needs to be as bright as possible at this point because the plants over it are also going to cast a shadow, right? So you need to calculate for that too. Like I heard that it shifted a little bit. I wasn't sure if it mattered, which is why I came over and checked. Looks like it's good. All right. So I need to be confident that this stone will get knocked out of place when the bigger stones around it go in. You know, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're heavier, they might knock it out. But like I'm doing this now because it's going to be harder to put it in after the other stones in the background come in. And Fukada-san would probably be having a fit that, like, if it were him, he would never do this. And he would never use, like, this thick spout. He would bring an attachment to make it thinner. But, like, I just don't have the personality to be so careful all the time. Okay, let go, Ono-san. Probably good. Yep, perfect, thank you. So this looks much better, right? In terms of position, I don't like it being too flat at the top. It has more dimensionality, but I don't like that it's so dark. I actually want it to be lighter there. That's the issue. So we're like trading between light, dark, and position. Now, you can imagine I could do this with cotton, or actually I prefer toilet paper over cotton, but like I could do this with tobacco filter or toilet paper and ultra thin super glue, but you can imagine it would take a lot longer actually to put each one in place, wait for it to cure, etc., etc. So like the reef guys really did us a favor by teaching us this technique. All right. Okay, Ono-san, I think you can let go. Yeah, daijoubu. All right. So, you know, Amano-san even had a technique where he like threw gravel into places to have them form fit. It's surprisingly very useful for diorama as well. Sometimes it's best not to completely connect the glue points too, because if you do, then they might act as one unit and snap together. But if you glue them separately, then they'll act as like two different points of connection. Oh, that's very strong now. Let's see. But what I can do here, if I'm extra paranoid, and we should always be extra paranoid, so I can slip in another one back here. So I want to clear all this out of the way because the sand is going on top. Once the sand goes in, there's no redoing this bottom layer, right? So the moritsuchi, the gravel layer at the bottom, is also part of your foundation. Think of that as part of the kiban, the foundation of the aquascape too. And remember, like you can never spend enough time feeling confident about the foundational layer of the aquascape, because there's no changing it once it's done. Like all this stuff even, like Fukada-san used to say that, like, or actually all of us at TAU would say that, like, you know, if we went to a TAU team event and like we got no corrections, then like you almost feel like, well, why did I bother going? right? You're losing some value. But like, the sound of super glue cracking as you tear something out to redo it, crack. Like, it's like therapeutic. It's like, you just cannot be afraid to redo anything in there. You know the 2018 Aquascape where I took World Rank 5? My gluing skills were not up to par, and I had a lot of corrections to make partway through from Fukada and even Ono-san. So like, every single major stone group in that layout, whether it was the lip of stone that was placed up here, whether it was sections of stone even glued to the side of the aquarium over here, whether it was the island that was the viewpoint at the back, whether it was the father stone that was this big. One day I came home and it was like, that was before I filled the tank though. But I didn't give up. I didn't cry. I didn't worry about it. I got back up. I put it back in place. Got that thing glued right back in there. You cannot do this while being afraid. You have to think like, no matter what happens, no matter like what the scape throws your way, I will be able to handle it. And if I need to redo, even if I need to redo it 2 weeks in advance, even I make huge shift, I'll do it. Once when I did Amano-gawa, originally did Amano-gawa, I had this huge lip of stone. Like, I had a stone this big. It was essentially like a father stone meant for like a giant diorama, but I used it as like the main directional piece to make the river here. And in my initial layout, it was like attached to the very front to like some wall, right? But Ono-san said that things were too flat over here. It needed to be adjusted so that there was more of a pocket down here. The whole stone had to be moved like 2 centimeters back, right? 2 centimeters back and slightly tilted. Okay, that was Ono-san's feedback. This is feedback he gave me when there was there all these other stones on top of it, and like the whole middle ground was already designed. But this stone here, boom, it's glued in place in like 8 different places. Ono-san said that stone needs to go this much back and tilted a little bit. Yes, I did. Did I tell Ono-san, what? I'm not gonna do that. That's too hard. Everything is built on top of that. Like, do you think that's what I said? No. Take everything out, break, redo the whole other half of the tank. 2 centimeters. But after I did it, I looked again, I was like, oh, it's so much better. It's so much better. Oh my God. That layout would not have been World Rank 15 if I hadn't done that. And you know what? This layout will not be as good if this rock stays in. Yes. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. All right. Baggy. It's like therapeutic. The problem is I do need to close up that right side somehow. But the question is like, what's the best way to go about it? Still figuring that part out. Let's see here though. But ready to go in with sand. Got it. Okay. It means this rock has to come. See this, you cannot be afraid. You literally cannot be scared to, oh, 大丈夫よ. To redo as that, because like this point, that was like the perfect angle to see that stone by itself. But now that I see that this one has to go, this one looks really good in here. But it cannot be touching this one. There has to be like negative space between the two, which means that this rock needs to fall back more. And actually, it doesn't need to have as much forward weight when, actually hold it in place, Alonso. Yeah, it doesn't need to have as much forward weight when this stone is in here to counterbalance it, so. We're really in the nitty-gritty now. We're down to like the decorative stuff. So like finally we can start focusing on the more like just aesthetically appealing things. So like this is an interesting point. Like we're trying to design So we're trying to design this right-hand side foreground, right? But actually, like, to do that, I even want to start, like, with stonework that I can see from here. So that's what I mean by, that's what I meant earlier when you want to keep this open so that you can use this place in the back later, even for just the background. I'd even, like this is foreground work, but it's being done all the way back there, which helps give the illusion of depth. Because there is depth, there's real depth, right? Okay, so one of the odd things about this foreground is that the lower the sand level is, the more dramatic it becomes, because there's more distance between these ledges that hang over the beach and like the sand itself. So that's why you want to figure out the right balance of sand where like it's touching here, so you have the effective moritsuchi, right? But at the same time, like you have as much negative space underneath that rock as possible. Oh, really? Yeah, I thought so. Woo, nice. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Ooh, now this is nice. Okay. Okay. Actually, Tom, Ono-san, do you want to just like work with me and like start plugging up stuff? And realistically, like we can actually plant over some of these gaps too, right? To cover them up. But another thing that Fukaura-san would often say is don't leave to planting what you can fix in the hardscaping. You can imagine like the whole process. You know, like on photography, you don't want to do, you don't want to leave up to post-processing what you can do in actually making the photo itself better. Aquascaping is like that. Don't leave up to planting what you can figure out and solve in the hardscaping. And then don't figure out in the photo what you can figure out and solve with the planting and final detail work. And then don't figure out in post-processing what you can do in the photo. And you want to use each of those steps to their maximum so that you're layering on max performance with each step. So you can tell, like, we're really in the detail phases of this now. Like, this is not the kind of stuff that you want to be focusing on at the beginning, right? What do you think, guys? We're getting close. It's like the hardscape is like 90% there. It's really up to detail work now. So let's see. So this is like Moritsuchi, essentially. So I'm clearing out the path here, so we can see all the way into the back. This does need to be... Okay, and now we can... So kind of like steishi, right? But we are like making the far bank of the beach like this, keeping in mind that this will be reflected onto the other side too, onto the glass too. So we keep that in mind while designing this out. So again, like these small stones in front are going to give greater dimension to all the bigger ones in back, right? This is like essentially making the shoreline. I use the brush to even things out. Okay. So you see like that line of gravel here extends out the whole line of the rest of the hardscape to come into the front. And like And if this is like kind of oya-ishi, fukuishi, soishi support, then like you could consider one stay-ishi here. Though it might not be needed, but again, that's the thing. Like you put it in, see if you want it, see if you need it. But I need one the right size. That could be good. Of course, like this is the kind of detail you're gonna have to redo when you get to the very end, right? But like the fact that we have all of this like sand area in front means that we have that, this sand area is like a canvas to show off your detail work. Like so many places like around here, you can really show off like your ability to go granular and small and show off small details. Let's see. But remember, that's the last thing that you care about. All of the important work is the vast majority of the base and the structure building that we've done up until now. Yeah. So, like the job of this steishi is to, well, it's an island. Actually, so this is like, it's not a river steishi, right? It's an island one. But its job is to continue its job is to continue the direction out this way. It's like a toe stone in a Brazilian layout, and it is also giving scale. This little island looks small, so that this thing looks gigantic by comparison. See, look, like the shape. I can take the sand all the way into the back there. And what's really cool about this? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah. Awesome. That looks good. That looks so good. And the great thing about this layout, guys, we can even do these kinds of detail decorations inside here. So like, Fukada-san really likes zigzag sand paths. It can't be straight. It's straight right now, right? But if we add stones in here to make more details, we can like give it a zigzag feel to it. So let me. But what I don't want is this stone is kind of curved right now. I want it to be like flat. See, like that? Because having it flat makes it feel like the sand level is flat, which is what makes the most sense visually, right? So get that here. Okay. All right, maybe bring that. See if you don't. only at this point. Only at this point are we allowed to care about such minutiae, such tiny things. And the ADA, what Amano-san like to do is you throw on some gravel and try not to be too careful about it. You want things to fall naturally because gravity can actually know better what to do than your own hand sometimes, with a little bit of adjustment. But I'm trying not to drop too much on the floor, Dave. Ooh, never mind. So like we're kind of making triangles with the pebbles, but they hug the wall of the stone. And like I actually don't want too much here. I want to show this base going into the sand because that's what really makes this stone feel big and powerful. But I do want some. So if you guys come and take a look, you can see the gravel poking out there all the way in the back. And you want that because that makes the layout feel really deep. All right, that's it. I think we're done. So at the planting, this is where it really becomes a cloud style layout, where the Riccia goes in and starts to like tell the story of clouds. We're gonna try it. We'll see. This is my first time doing it on top of the mountains. But we're gonna start by putting on a layer of Java moss over all almost all the mountains. So Ono-san and Ryan are gonna help me with that. Let's get up and let's start, guys. So like, I used to be a Go player. I like to hold my moss like this, like a penny size, like this much. Hold it like that, and then just take a tiny dot of glue. Here. Oh, is that one open? Here. Okay. Here, I'll go ahead. So I just, I'll just take a tiny dot of glue. You only want a little bit, enough to hold. But here, I'll like put this inside and just push a little bit. Let it stick, done, okay? And this is what you can do to plant your moss and things without like hurting the moss and without getting white color all over your hardscape. So I'm gonna have Ono-san and Ryan do most of the background stones, and I'm gonna like do the sea area since it's a little bit more complexity there. Okay, じゃあお願いします。Ono-sanと I trust you guys' senses. So one of my students in the America team, he's actually a veteran even. He's taken top 100 in the world once before. Really impressive layout. This year he was working in IOPLC, but a lot of things came up and he ended up not being able to complete his entry. But like a month before the deadline, he showed me his work and asked me, how's this, Steven? And I said, it's just like the problem with the plant husbandry in that layout was that the plants overall looked good. Everywhere where he had planted and grown, you know, looked good. Clearly a veteran, but his moss was not integrated well enough. His moss like looked like this essentially. Here's one spot here, here's one spot there, and in both places the moss looked healthy, growing, but you see like there's no integration here, right? There's like no sense to it. Unlike over here, and here, wait. Let me even go ahead and... Andy, you don't mind me taking one out and using it, right? Okay. And you want the curved scissors for this. But like, just like pay attention to this foreground stone. Yeah, but this is why you want the curved one. You don't want the straight one to do this, because the straight one is really good for cutting details, the edges of the plants. But like the curved one is the one that you want in order to manicure the plants and get them to conform. Like we're getting the moss to conform to the stone, or as I said, to seep into the stone, right? And to do that, you really need to trim it down and get it to hug tight to the rock. And see, like with these curved scissors, I can sit them on top and cut. Just making very sure not to cut the rock. Okay, but like take a look at the moss on that stone. And then take a look at the moss on this rock, right? So like this is what you don't want. This is what you want to achieve. And in order to get it to really look like that and grow in very well, you want to plant a lot of moss. You want to cover, if when in doubt, like we say that you don't want your final hardscape to end up looking like a teddy bear. So it can't be completely covered with moss. But when in doubt, plant it, especially at the beginning of the aquarium, because you can always rip off, right? You can always remove. In fact, it's better to remove. But if you're a month out from IPLC and like your moss looks very healthy and well developed, in like those two spots, like this, boom, boom. Like if you have very well developed healthy moss, boom, boom, like that. And you ask me like, what should I do to finish off the layout? If your planting is like that throughout, it's like unrecoverable at this point, right? Because there's all this area between those two groups that is not covered. And we can't recover the time in order to get the plants to look grown into a place like that. So better to cover more of that possible at this stage. And then like, that's why I'm asking Ono-san and Ryan to like really cover the stones with moss. Because like, later on, if Dave and his team want more detail, they can always remove and get more detail, right? But if we plant everything lightly at the beginning, then like they'd have to replant and then wait and see it grow in again in order to get it to look good. So like anywhere you can imagine water seeping into that place, put in moss. And if you don't like it, and if you're when in doubt, add more moss. And if you don't like it, you know, you can always tear it out later. But you can never put back, I mean you can, but you're gonna have to wait for it to catch up with the rest of the scape again if you're planting a new place completely. Like it would get to the point where we'd be like a week out before the contest deadline, super desperate. And like, oh my god, the plant's not growing in. We're not gonna make it in time. We spent too much time hardscape. And Shito-san would be like, don't worry everyone, don't worry. Algae is a type of plant. Like this planting stage is actually one of my least favorite parts. So I love having two guys here who really know their stuff on it with me. It's great. But like I usually end up spending a week. If I have every day to work a little bit at a time, I usually end up taking a week to plant just because I want to get detailed. I can't just like shove stuff in, you know? With a hardscape this intricate, it takes like time to figure out a planting scheme that makes sense.
Just come in here.
Yeah. You're just a little,
Yeah.
and then over here too.
Yeah.
Like, so Ono-san and Ryan are responding that it's kind of weird to like plant flat places with moss, but it's weird to do that in Iwagumi and in traditional rock styles. But because like these are I'm largely taking cues from Hawaiian mountains, and like Hawaiian mountains are mostly green, I like to plant in a lot of places. Or I really like to get my mountains turning green. So actually, like some of the guests were talking to me about how to deal with this right side. Since it's still open, you can see the black. There's a few things that you can do. Like I told Dave that he could just get black sponge and shove it in there and fill it. Another thing that you could potentially do, Dave, that is like one of my freest, best get out of jail cards. Like, especially, this is the thing that you can do like literally 2 days before the photo shoot and you're like, God, I'm fucked, but I need to figure this out. Just get a swasser tang and like jam it in there. Yeah, get the swasser tang and you jam it in there. And like, and actually you can even just do that from here because like, the swasser tang will not die. No matter like where it is in the tank, if there's like barely any light there, it'll still find a way to thrive where every other plant would die. So like, it is like my stopgap plant to like, if I just need a place to be green without like, and the cool thing about Swasser Tang is it actually looks pretty mature even when, Swasser Tang looks pretty mature even when it's not, it hasn't been there for a long time. Of course, if you give it the chance to grow, it looks awesome, right? But even if you had to jam it in at the end, like most people can't tell that it just got jammed in there at the end. I have, so Amano Gawa was world rank 15 in IPLC, but not everyone knows that I also entered like essentially the same tank into IIAC, the Taiwanese contest. But to give myself like liability, you know, it's not the same layout. I won't get disqualified by ADA. I pulled out the father stone, like the big rock that was on the right side. I pulled that out, and then I put like running driftwood on top of it. So it became a wood layout with this really cool like flow expression branching wood that Shito-san had. And when I did that though, you remember that Amano Gawa needed to have its inflow and outflow in the aquarium, right? Like that was the idea. You keep the equipment in the tank so that the water's moving. But after I took out the father stone, then you could see you could suddenly see the inflow pipe out there. So what I did, I was like, do I need to workshop this? Do I need to move the inflow pipe to the other side? Actually, I'd want that corner to be dark anyway. Is there a better way to do this? I got it. I grabbed the giant handful of swasser tang out of my farm tank, and I just wrapped the inflow pipe with the swasser tang top to bottom, so that like it was completely covered in that back left corner. Disappeared. No one could, like the hair grass is growing in front of it, the Potamagenta guy is growing in front of the swasser tank. That back left corner just ended up looking green and dark and shadowy just like I wanted to, and the flow rolled right through. I'm like, yeah, there we go. Problem solved. So now that we have the base layer of moss in, 多分後で僕一人大丈夫だけど、なんかあればはい、またお願いしちゃおう。もう。Thank you. ありがとうございます。Okay. So I think in a normal diorama, you would also plant moss like down here in front too. But because this is like ocean, and you imagine that this is like the salt water, right? Then you don't really want plants here. But what I can do is, let's go ahead and add the Cuba. So like My first aquascape was a layout called How Coast, but it was all about pearl weeds, HC and micranthomoids. And like there is a plant in Hawaii called naupaka that is essentially like, it looks just like HC, but like it creeps and crawls along the coastline like this. So the tough part that we're gonna have to figure out is like how to plant this. Usually what I would do is I would take a stainless steel nail and put it on top of this to weigh it down. But I didn't think I was going to use these plants, so I didn't ask Dave to bring them in time. But what I can do is I'll leave them and we will try pouring some sand on them to hold them down for now. Maybe some soil too, we'll see what happens. So like you can see I'm like tearing up little bits, and like you're almost thinking about the moss as being like a substrate for the HC. So, like naupaka is a wonderful plant to think about from a story perspective, because it is essentially an adventuring plant. It is a pioneer plant. It's one of those plants that first colonizes a bare island in the middle of the Pacific. Like the volcano erupts and bursts under the ocean, and slowly, surely over time, rock collects to form a mountain under the sea that grows up and up and up and becomes a new island in the Pacific amongst the other Hawaiian islands. And then as this virgin rock comes out of the ocean, the first thing that needs to happen is birds and pioneer plants like the naupaka, like coconut, like mangrove, need to come and essentially settle the land. They are the first colonizers that come and start to break down rock into soil so that other plants can come. And eventually, like cloud forests can emerge in the sky. Hawaii has a species of naupaka that grows up in the mountains, but Hawaii is the only place that has such a plant to grow, because Hawaii is a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And there was time without competition for this little shoreline plant to go up and up and up and even conquer the top of the mountain. But in all other places in the Pacific and Asia, naupaka there's only a species of naupaka that grows on the coastline, and it is native, or I should say that the coastline naupaka you can find everywhere in the Pacific and on Asia. The mountain naupaka in the cloud forest is something that's very unique to Hawaii. And they are, at this point, two distinct species. Sure. So like here I'm planting some plants in a place that you can't see, but I expect that they might creep down and come into view. It's amazing that like in many places in a layout where you can't see from the front, you're not sure if there's any meaning to doing something there, but meaning might appear as the layout evolves. And you know, it's always something that you can fix, but you might as well do something interesting when you have the chance. Like again, with plants you can always remove, but if they weren't there from the get-go, it's very hard to retroactively try to refit the layout with them. Okay. So you see I'm just like planting little bits here and there, and the moss is actually kind of like a tempo guide for where the alpaca should go, or the HC should go. So in retrospect, with the Howe Coast layout, world rank 71, just by luck, just by fluke. But I think, you know, that thinking about it now again, that layout was like my landfall. It was the very beginning, like the alpaca reaching the Virgin Island to try to reach for the clouds. Sure. Dave, do we have a spray? Just need to keep these guys all wet and happy while we're figuring stuff out, you know. Here, I got it. Sweet. Okay. So Dave, how does the HC appreciate this plant glue? I've never had luck with glue and HC before. Really? Okay, I'll give it a shot. Okay, if it dies, you replant it, all right? Okay. Because otherwise, like, I was gonna pour sand on it and like jiggle it so that the sand kind of gets into the roots. But if glue will work, we'll give it a shot. Yeah, like it's okay. So like, I'm gonna only put a tiny bit. See, so I tried trimming this yesterday, see if it would work, but with the knowledge that I might not be sure until I tried. But let's see, let's take a look. So my idea was that such a piece could fit in here, but you can see it's not fitting, so. And I'm imagining that the water doesn't go up to the surface level, like the water will stop around here. So, with that in mind, how do I need to cut this to get into the part? This is like a plastic mesh. It's like pretty clear too, so it's gonna be hard for the camera to pick it up. But like when you wrap Riccia around it and then tie it with fish tie, that's actually what we have here. A bunch of these I pre-cut, and then we applied Riccia on top of them, and then now they have been tied with fish line. And so what we can do is we can like actually insert these like into places around here, like this, and it'll look like the theory anyway is that it'll look like the clouds are creeping over the mountain, much as it did in my old painting master's paintings. Yeah, exactly. We'll glue the mesh in place, and look, see, you can make layers so your clouds will be more three-dimensional. And if you imagine, like, this becomes a platform that lets you make layers of like cloud-like expression when the Riccia grows over that. Yeah, it should be, because we're only going to tie a few pieces. You guys have done the work of doing most of this on your like pre. Okay, so that's good. Then take this. I'm gonna leave myself some room. Go around. At this point, maybe like push it down so that it doesn't get twirled to one side too hard. But like. Okay, good. And now I get to have the fun of using all these pieces that the team pre-cut for me. No worries about it. So. And actually what I found is that Riccia doesn't care at all about accelerator. Riccia does not want to get, like, I don't know about plant super glue. It does not want to get regular super glue on it, but it really doesn't care about getting accelerator on it. So we're free to spray this as much as we want. So like, you see, it's almost like with this too, I can still move it a little bit before it dries, but it's almost like a zigzag pattern in the sky, just like you have a zigzag pattern in the sand, right? The clouds kind of fold in on each other, right? So guys, I'll just re-emphasize now, but like doing this, can you imagine like what my layouting would be like if Kara-san had just told me all the answers? If to every how question that I asked, he just told me how he did it? Like, and where we would be today with my scaping in that regard? This technique would not exist, that's for sure. I only need to glue it in one place and it can kind of float in midair. It's done. Good. So you see, like one of the big themes of Tagami paintings are like clouds flowing in and out between mountains, and like some mountains being masked and some parts of the mountain being revealed as the clouds reform. So depending on how you trim this and how it grows in, like you can strategically show how much of the mountain face behind it you want to be revealed, and that will like change the personality of the layout. But glued to the rock like this, the rhesia will appear as if it's flowing mid-air. When you're doing this hobby for a long time, you get very good at being ambidextrous. It's like, there are just some things you can't do with your dominant hand. Some places you can't reach. So just that little bit already separates this rock from this one. Doesn't need to be a lot. And see like how the ego hand, as opposed to like holding it like this, I have to fit my whole hand in there. But if I hold it like this, I can slide it in like that to plant. So, and if you ever play Go and the teacher will tell you that you're holding the stones correctly. But like, I see you guys have Guyana in a lot of your tanks. That's one of my favorite plants to do in this. So what you can do is, we'll start with these species, but if you feel like you need a plant to like integrate the micranthemum with the hairgrass, or you need a different texture or more subtle texture within like this myriophyllum, you can just like put in sprigs of Guyana here and there to like stop gap. But Guyana is a plant that really likes a mature tank, so I'd recommend planting it not at the beginning, but partway through the layout. Yeah. All right, we've planted all the plants. I just need to trim the moss, and that'll be it. So I just feel like I need a little bit of green here to close it out. And again, like if you don't like it, you can always, take it out later. You want to trim aggressively, even at the very beginning, after this is planted, because immediately the moss is going to start growing from the tips where it's been trimmed. So, like, look how close I'm getting. I'm almost trying to cut it down to the nub. And the curved scissors is what allows me to do that.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm absolutely blown away by what Steven has produced in under 7 hours, and it is an honour to have this in the showroom, and a world first actually for Steven's new style, the Cloud style. So an absolute honour for me to have that and him demonstrate his new style in the showroom. Going forward, this has got a long journey, this Aquascape, and to produce something of this level, but the pressure's just on now to keep it looking good, and so it's going to be a learning curve for me as well, and my staff here to maintain and fulfil Steven's vision. So I want to say thank you all to those who again came to the workshop, and I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did. The video is going to be fantastic. It's one of those videos that I hopefully be able to re-watch, and there's so much to learn. Steven's knowledge and wisdom was amazing, and I want to thank him again for making the trip over from the US to visit us here and spend so much time with us. So thank you very much, Steven. Once again, thank you all and take care. Bye-bye.